Welcome to the Peak Performance and Peak Satisfaction podcast with Master Executive Coach Sherry Gregoff. Sherry helps business people perform better, get rewarded handsomely, and actually enjoy their work. After having her own career turnaround, she now helps other high-powered business professionals experience the same. Join the movement to work differently.
Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. Whether you see work as a necessary evil or as a source of identity and pride, it's worth recalibrating your perspective for better performance and satisfaction. As an overachiever, you may be used to relying on validation from work. You may see work as securing your livelihood, which you offset with a work hard, play hard philosophy. Use this episode as a reset to put work in its rightful place. Before we jump in, I want to shout out one of my clients who had a win in this area. Here's the quote from her. "This was helpful for me to shift how I view my work in this season. I've been so used to driving hard for results and to advance my career that it feels different to be more accepting of circumstances around me and to decide how much is enough." In a coaching session that started with evaluating the communication taking place within this leader's organization, we quickly got to the heart of the issue. Maybe not exactly what she expected. When communicating to our teams, we can feel in the hot seat, judged, and that our credibility is on the line. We may not like sharing things that are half-baked or that could change. We may feel uncomfortable that we don't have authority to decide everything that impacts our organization. In this case, as we dove deeper into the level of actual ownership this leader had in the vision for her organization and its shelf life, we realized there was an internal discomfort with her scope of role, autonomy, and level of emotional ownership. In the end, we found a balance of a high intent to excel and contribute, but also a healthy detachment to the outcome, both for the business and her career. This balance felt new. It was at odds with the career drive that had gotten her this far professionally. She wasn't sure how to face her staff at the all-hands meeting, given this approach. We got her there so she could go into it authentically and at peace. But more importantly, we refined her career strategy and reset her relationship with her work. Some of our ingrained habits and views on our career can be fruitful for a time, but unsustainable and ultimately counterproductive. What's important is taking a beat to reevaluate your career strategy and update your habits accordingly. Similar victories are shared by all of my clients, and I have experienced it too in my own career turnaround. So let's hop to today's podcast content and get you on your way to experiencing this also. In this episode, we will review two of the most common perspectives on work that are widely held. We will unpack where these came from and then objectively assess whether they ultimately will serve us well. I'll then offer up a fresh perspective on work and practical takeaways to make it yours. Let's start with how the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines work as a noun. Activity in which one exerts strength or faculties to do or perform something. A specific task, duty, function, or assignment. Sustained physical or mental effort to overcome obstacles and achieve an objective. The labor, task, or duty that is one's usual occupation or job. It sounds neutral to burdensome. Interesting. We will come back to this later. Let's turn to the first approach to work that many of us have. I call it work to live. In this scenario, we see work as a means to pay the bills, a necessary evil, like death and taxes. Something we do, but wish we didn't have to do. I've caught myself saying, this whole work thing, it really gets in the way of life. Usually said tongue-in-cheek when we have the opportunity to stay at the beach but have to head home to get to the office. But it summarizes perfectly a subconscious belief that many of us have. My oldest son is getting closer to college age, and it's been a trip to hear adults talk about what comes after college. They say things like, "You'll be shocked to know that then you start working and you will never stop. Enjoy what you have now and don't rush it." When we put it like that, I would be dreading it too. This feels like the common perception of work for generations. You know you're in this camp if you are calculating how many hours you have left to work today, how many days before the weekend, how many weeks to vacation, and how many years to retirement. When work is something done just to survive or to speed through as fast as possible, we definitely see it as a chore. We frame it as something we have to do or should do. The main draw in this case is the paycheck that puts food on the table and a roof over our heads, the paycheck that pays for medicines we need and the transportation to get us to the office. So where does this take on work come from? This view is more grounded in the deficiency needs that we have, the basic physiological needs for food, clothing, shelter, and second-level needs for healthcare and safe living conditions. Our work helps us meet our most primitive needs for safety, security, and certainty, for mere survival. It's a toll we must pay to sustain this life. Usually this view means we try to comfort ourselves for having to do this dreadsome work by rewarding ourselves in some way. You may hear the phrase, work hard, play hard. Pay the toll, and then go out and celebrate it being over. Splurge on extravagant buys, or escape to a distant land, or via food, alcohol, or substances. The irony is the cost of these expensive habits to comfort ourselves, and that they can represent a large part of that paycheck that we are working all those hours for. So you see the dilemma. Work hard to afford the things that help you forget how hard you worked. Let's walk out what these views of work produce. When we are thinking we must work to live, to earn our keep or earn a living for basic survival and security, we feel scarce, limited, urgent, needy for this work and this paycheck. We may cling to our work as our source of safety. We may people please and work in fear that we may lose our role at any time. We may fall into catastrophic thinking, rationalizing that we are one misstep away from losing our job, food insecurity, and homelessness. The result is that work is purely an obligation to get through, but important enough to have us living in fear of losing our security. You could see how this would impair your performance, limit your impact, and certainly degrade any satisfaction you feel with work. Habits to reward ourselves or escape these feelings can have steep costs on our health and our relationships. So if we had the option to choose a different pattern when it comes to work, we might want to explore it. Let's move on to the second most commonly held view on work. I call it live to work. In this case, our work is the source of our identity and pride. We feel accomplished, like we're making a significant contribution. We may feel a strong sense of belonging with our colleagues. Here, there is an element of self-actualization wrapped up in our work. Self-actualization isn't a bad thing on its own. It's actually what we're all aiming for. But when we live to work, it's gone too far and gotten twisted. This is when we might find ourselves overworking for external validation. We might become super focused on optimizing our productivity. We judge the value of a day based on our output. Titles and compensation are seen as objective and concrete measures of our success. This may sound like exactly what the system of work was set up for. In some respects, yes. But when we overwork to produce output, to justify our existence, maybe we can't relax or just be because we feel guilty that we aren't producing output or accomplishing anything. Or maybe we start sacrificing hours of sleep or days intended for rest on the weekend because we must be productive. That's when we know it's gone too far. This is largely accepted in society these days, however. We confidently declare that we can't sit still, or we don't like to just rest without something to do. But we don't take a closer look at why we are so insistent on becoming human doings rather than human beings. When this drive for self-actualization, to belong with others, to make a contribution, and to stand out as significant is paramount, we can settle into some pretty unhealthy habits to keep it up. This is when our work becomes our primary identity. Our role, title, or company is who we see ourselves to be. The idea of retirement becomes frightening because we aren't sure who we are without the work identity or work habit to occupy our time. When we look underneath this, it is that work has become our source for our self-worth. Our value as a human being becomes wrapped up in this title and brand. Each day becomes a fight to prove ourselves and our value, a chase for external validation, for affirmation of the value we bring, in tangible ways like a title or raise to let us know we're valued and on the right track. You can imagine how this bodes for companies. High emotional ownership is even touted as a corporate value, so employees know that the expectation for success is pure dedication. The more the better. No distractions or interruptions. This is your primary identity, and it requires maintenance. Here the thoughts are, for me to be worthy, I have to show it in my output, my contributions, and they must stand out as significant against the pack so that I feel like I belong. We feel needy, desperate, urgent, rushed, hurried, behind, and the actions we take as a result are overworking, skipping rest, skipping basic healthy habits, chasing achievement. The result is that our work is our source for seeing our own value. External validation is the affirmation that we yearn for. Let's take a breath here. If either of these views on work fits you, or even both depending on the day, not to worry. We uncovered where these came from so that we can upgrade our view to one that is more helpful and more accurate. I have embraced both of these views in my career. Early on, it was work as security. When there's no money, a paycheck is everything. Fear for survival can be a powerful motivator and lead to impressive results. I credit this as my driver through school, through mid-career even. When we start on this path as work being our livelihood, it can be easy to stay there. It can be common to feel unsafe and to see work and the paycheck as a way to feel more secure, even when there's no imminent threat, even with emergency savings stockpiled, where food insecurity and homelessness are not possible. We think it's still a matter of life and death, and we work to survive. Once I got going in my career, the work as self-worth came next. Think about how we are wired with this, even from a school age. Grades are a concrete measure of how well you are doing. When grades are good, people like it, and they like you. It's easy to conclude that your grades denote your self-worth then. At work, grades become performance ratings, compensation levels, and corporate titles. Concrete measures of your self-worth, or so it seems. If this is a grade on self-actualization, well then I want more, and I want it fast. It took me 40 years to see things differently, and it's still a practice in following what I know to be true, and not to default to the views I had on work as an equivalent to security when I was 20 years old in my first job, living in my first apartment. It's still a practice to not see work as my self-worth either, even though a string of accomplishments certainly made me feel worthy as I received them and as people around me reacted to them. So let's do this for you now, if you're ready for that reset. This is how we find the happy middle ground between working to live and living to work. Today is when we put work back in its rightful place. Are you ready? First, let's break the old beliefs, each in turn. Work as a means to live. Let's be practical here. Work does pay for food and shelter. No work means problems. But the minimum needed for safety is minimal indeed. One could argue that minimum pay is absolutely available to the average person at any time. Yes, even in this economy and with the rise of AI. It does mean you may need to do a job that you would rather not. but earning enough money for basic safety and to meet our needs for food and clean drink and a place to sleep, it's when we start thinking that we have to have that big-time job with the big-time title and the big-time paycheck. It's what's needed to continue to survive. That's when we start losing touch with reality. If you're listening to this podcast right now, it's an indicator that you have means, a device on which to listen, internet access, maybe fancy AirPods connected to a fancy device too. Your next meal is not in question, and if it was, you could work many different jobs ably in order to fund it. To quiet this work to live notion, first find all the evidence you have that your ability to survive is not dependent on your keeping the job that you are currently in or finding a better one. Your quality of life might be in question, perks that you would prefer to have, but not your survival. You are safe in this moment. Now on to live to work, this working to prove our self-worth. I joke that when we see a newborn baby, we don't look at it and say, I can't wait till this baby can work and earn its keep. Then it will be worth something. We know that there is infinite value in this human life, even one that can't care for itself yet, let alone earn all the accolades and awards. We have worth even without our jobs. Every human life has an innate value. It's why we cringe when we see someone get hurt. It's why we cry at the loss of life. We aren't sad about them not making a contribution in their job anymore. Their mere presence was of value, a priceless value that we can't assign a figure to, like we might a net worth. There you have it. Net worth does not equate to self-worth. Level of title does not denote human value. So, we may have shaken your belief loose in subscribing to the work to live or live to work views now, but what's the more accurate and helpful perspective on work? Here it is. Work is good for us. Work is not a mandatory obligation that keeps us from what we would rather be doing. Work is an opportunity to make an impact. Work is a place where we can find intellectual stimulation. We can learn and grow. Work is a place where we can help other people, colleagues, clients, shareholders. Work is an opportunity to leave things better than you found it. Work is a way to contribute to your community. You know that quote attributed to John Wesley, "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can." Turns out that's wise advice. There isn't really a quote about go lie on a beach and veg out for life for as long as you can. I could probably find one by Jimmy Buffett, but I don't need to. It's not what we aspire to, deep down. TV commercials and social media might make that look like the ideal option, but it's not. Without intellectual stimulation, life can be boring. Without learning, we are unfulfilled. Even if we were in a library to learn for the rest of our lives through reading, we would be unfulfilled. We would not be making an impact on others. We were created to create, not just to go through the motions. There's a healthy balance to find where you can use opportunities to contribute and make a significant difference without developing an unhealthy dependency on chasing achievements. Turns out, we were designed for rest too, 1/3 of every day, and for a couple of days a week. Using that time for rest is a great way to be sure you are recovering and refreshing, and not starting to live to work. We live to love. We live to create. We live to enjoy. We live to experience life to the fullest. And I don't mean glamorous trips or pleasure that becomes addiction. Simple pleasures, awareness, gratitude. Work is a gift and blessing and is good for us. It's up to us not to let our take on work veer off to either end of the spectrum, work to live or live to work, but to stay right here in the happy middle ground, using our unique talents to make an impact and help other people. One of my favorite mafia movies, yes, I have many, talks about wasted talent and that the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. There were specific skills and talents put inside of you to go out and apply to make this world better. Work is one way you can use them for good. Don't waste this opportunity getting it twisted, or seeing work as a dreaded obligation, or the only purpose of life for which all else should be sacrificed. It's a balance. It's not all or nothing. It's the happy middle ground. Enjoy the safety it affords and knowing there are countless ways to keep that safety intact, even without that particular job. Enjoy the opportunity for learning and impact that it provides without making it the center of your universe and reason for living. This is putting work in its rightful place. This is caring for our own health first and our relationships next, and our work as an opportunity to have a positive impact beyond our immediate circle of concern. It's third in the lineup in my book. That's the rightful place for me. Consider this for yourself. Know where it stands in your rank order. Then make sure every day it's in its rightful place. If an objective observer did a silent ride-along with you, make sure they would know your priorities based on the day and how you led it. This means that you will decide when it's enough, when you have developed enough skills and savings to feel safe to cover any unexpected time out of a job. You can say it's enough. When you have your backup plan for how you would pay the cost of living with whatever job you needed to, you can put that burden of worry and fear down. It's enough. And for my achievers, you may have heard all your life, work hard, outwork the others. No one explained how to know when it was enough. Work harder was the only guidance. But now you can start setting standards. You can decide how much is enough. Only you. Tell yourself, and then take a rest from work. This sustains you and helps you excel in work and excel in life. Let's look back at the Merriam-Webster definition, this time for the verb work. To function or operate in a desired way, as in, this works, or this is working. This has a positive connotation. Finally. It works, my friends, when we keep work in perspective, when we find safety in our ability to always find work that meets our basic physiological needs. It works when we have the plan for how to maintain our safety. It works when we recognize our own self-worth and identity completely apart and separate from our work. It works when we give ourselves permission to halt output, to rest, and see rest itself as productive. It works when we recognize we have unique talents and gifts that can make a positive impact in the world, on our businesses, colleagues, clients, communities, and family. It works when we see work as an opportunity to use our skills to help others, an intellectual engagement that invites us to be challenged, to learn and grow. It works as an experience meant to be enjoyed, where time and space may slip away as we do what we do best and help things in the way that only we can. This new middle ground is so available to you. I help you find it in our consultation. Book at the first link in the show notes now. And if your relationship with your calendar feels strained, know that live to work and work to live can make for a not-so-pleasant day of commitments. Let's upgrade your perspective on your time and arm you with specific next steps to implement for more control of your day. Join me live later today or catch the replay at the link. Until next time.
Looking for support in applying the principles and strategies in today's episode? Sherry coaches clients one-on-one as their trusted confidant and advisor, helping each client create the work and life they had only dreamed of. To schedule your complimentary career strategy session, go to sherrygregoff.com/apply to book time with her today. It's one simple step that can change everything.